What's up guys, my name is Your Heroes and welcome back to more Men of War Assault Squad 2. Yes, we are back finally in this awesome World War II game. Now today we are doing something very special. Today this is something I actually haven't done. I've done a lot of faction reviews and a lot of, on what they're for, like their infantry, their armored division, but I've actually never done a tank review on this channel, or if I have done, I can't really remember, but I'm pretty sure I haven't, and especially not Men of War Assault Squad 2. So today we are going to be looking at the American tank review. Now I have got the tank 2.0 mod on, which adds on a lot of vehicles that aren't usually in the game, like the T14, the T34, the M6A2E1 Mutant, and the M6, as well as we have over here, we have the M51 Super Pershing. We have, is it a Super Pershing yet? We have the M4, the famous M4A3E8 Fury from the movie Fury. And of course we have, this is the Super Pershing is actually part of the game, but I thought I'd add it anyway because it does look very cool. And of course we have the T49, the biggest gun, caliber gun we actually have in this list right now. So if you guys do want to see more of these tank reviews from different factions, because I can do it, and I can also find mods in Cult Arms for it too, but it is mostly in Men of War Assault Squad 2, and this is what I did actually have this mod, and they have unfortunately discontinued this mod. I have no idea why, because I absolutely love this mod, and if they've just kept going, they would have added a lot more tanks. It would have been awesome, but unfortunately they have discontinued this mod, if I can say it yet, but you can still download it for yourself, and of course I'll leave that in the description down below. So without further ado, we are going to the things I'm going to be talking about today is of course the tank itself, what caliber of gun they use, how effective they are in the battlefield, and whether show you what their weak spots are and what their strengths are. So without further ado, we will get straight into the action. So we'll first start off with the heavy tank side. Now, as you can see, these are all counted as heavy tanks in this game. The T14, the T30, the M6A2E1 Mutant, as we call it in World Tanks, and of course the M6 heavy tank. Now, of course, I'm going to be starting off with one of the lightest, or the less armored vehicles in the game, which is a T14. Now this T14 is a very capable tank. It has a 75mm gun, which you can see right here. It also uses a 50 cal machine gun in the hull, as you can see right here, and also it does have a wee machine gun. I think that's just a wee machine gun at the side of the turret mantlet here, as you can see. And of course I'm also going to talk about the camouflage of it in this particular winter. As you can see, it has some very nice winter camo with the American flag, or the American star right at the front, which is very nice. But this thing does carry a very deadly 50 cal gun, as you can see, and this thing is I would say is very good going up against, if it's going up against enemies such as Germany. It'd be a very good comparison to like a Panzer III or something, a Panzer IIIJ. I would say those against each other, I would say it's a very good competition. I would say the Panzer IIIJ might come up on top, but just because it has the Panzer IIIJ has the same gun as the T14 has. I think they both have 75mm, I presume. Actually, I think I'm right, but as you can see, it actually has two 50 cals, one at the top and one I don't know if that actually is a 50 cal down here, but I definitely know this is a 50 cal up here, which is definitely good with dealing with a horde of infantry. But just be careful, because remember, it is a heavy tank, so it's not the most maneuverable vehicle in the world, which a top speed of 20 kilometers per hour in this game. I don't know how fast it goes backwards, but it basically gives me all the details here. So overall, and as you can see, it does have very kind of good sloped armor, but don't be fooled by that, because it still can be quite vulnerable to much heavier tanks, like a tank destroyer such as a Stug 3G, which it could be vulnerable to. So if its strengths are that get this thing up in the combat, maybe against going up against Panzer IIIJs. That's its strength, you know, its armor, of course, and try and, because it does have side skirts as well, as you can see as well, so it can absorb shots from the track and it won't track it, which is very nice. So that's one of the strengths, that it won't get tracked a lot unless you aim for the tracks at the front of the tank here or at the rear where it's most vulnerable. But mostly overall its strength is that you mainly just want to keep this thing moving at all times. And I know it's not World of Tanks and it's different, but overall I think this is actually a very well rounded tank, and you'll do quite well against Panzer III's tanks and maybe no higher. Maybe some Stugs, but again no higher. Okay, moving on to the next heavy tank, which I feel is the next heavier, or the next most armored, is the M6 tank. Now this is in World of Tanks, of course it does have different gun, but in this game it uses the 76mm Mark IV, I believe, if I'm right. And it also, as you can see, it has two wee machine gun ports here, which are 30 cals, I believe. I think they both do actually work in the game, which is very useful. Unfortunately, it does not have like that big 50 cal it does on the T14, so that's where the disadvantage is. But I would say overall the armor is actually a much better on the M6 than it is T14, as you can see. Although watch out, because this thing can still be quite vulnerable against Nashorns, or even some very dangerous tank destroyers, so be careful. And also some very dangerous heavy tanks such as the Tiger tank, which will take this thing out very easily, so just be careful. Now this, because this thing has a 76mm, it is just not a caliber high, just over the 75. This thing can definitely go through Stugs, and even if you can get a side of a Tiger tank, then you might have a chance. But don't always rely on the gun, because it is only a 76mm gun, remember, so it can slightly do a lot more damage than a 75mm, but just don't always rely on it like going through a Tiger 1's frontal armor, because it definitely will not go through it. Again, you're more capable of going through like a Panzer IIIJ or now a Stug 4, which will be much more reliant. Your armor will stand up towards Stugs as well, so that's very good. And of course, it does have that kind of cover. It doesn't have that same side skirt as the T14, but it definitely will try and protect you, as it does have kind of like some side skirting, actually not over the tracks, but just literally covering this area here, so it is less vulnerable to getting tracked as well, which is very nice. Again, because this is a heavy tank, it is quite slow, with the maneuverability going at 18 kilometers per hour. Now that is very slow for a heavy tank, so definitely do not rely. Just be careful that you don't get out circled or out flanked by a medium tank in this tank. So definitely keep this thing maybe at medium to long range, where its armor is effective, its gun is effective as well, and also with its two 30 cals as well, which is really nice. So there you go, that is the M6 in a nutshell, as well as, having a wee machine gun port there, but I don't think that one works. But overall the camo is actually very nice and very fitting for this map as well. Okay, moving on to the next tank, which is the M6A2E1 Mutant, as we call it we call it a Mutant World tank. Now, unfortunately, this tank does not have kind of like a default skin for the winter map, but this is its default skin here. But as you can see it is very much different compared to the T14 and the M6. It doesn't have that conventional round turret that you see. This is kind of got a very much like a turtle. Not very much. It has kind of a very weird turret where it is more vulnerable to hits, such as the sides here and the sides and the rear here. So definitely be careful. That is one very good weakness in this tank, is that if you get flanked, you're going to get very much damage from the side of the turrets and the rear. The front, the only really good strong, well, let's carry on with the weaknesses as well, sorry. So this actually, as you can see, there's something you could probably see which is very similar between the Mutant and the M6, in that they both have the same hull, the same chassis, let's say. But the difference is that this thing is way more armoured, but of course the rear and the sides is completely vulnerable to flanking, and you will also mostly get tracked as well. The same kind of the the side skirts as the M6, so definitely be careful. But this is where the strengths come in, such as the frontal armor. Now you can see the major difference between the M6 and the Mutant's turret and the Mutant's hull, that this thing can definitely take a lot more hits. The armor in this ranges between 25.4 and 101.6 in the game. The Mutant goes from 25 to 229, and you can see this thing is very much sloped as well as the lower glacis, where this thing is kind of flat, where it's more vulnerable to hits. So this thing is actually very, very capable, and its turret as well is very, very strong, whereas the M6, as you can see, is strong, but not as strong as the Mutants. As you can see, this thing looks way more deadlier, and it carries a lot more dangerous gun, I believe. This thing carries a 90mm gun. The main gun says a T5E1E, it doesn't say the caliber, but I'm saying it is a 90mm gun. As you can see, it definitely looks like a much bigger caliber than the M6, so I'm saying that this is a 90mm gun. Now, what you want to do in this tank, I've actually got it in World of Tanks in the game, but of course the games do range and armor, but all you want to do is keep this tank forward at all times. This is where the tank strengths are, is that keep this tank at medium to long range, where its armor is absolutely fantastic, and the only thing that might get through it is an ISU 152, where with its HE gun, which it could probably damage, but overall this thing is a very, very deadly tank. And because it now has a bigger caliber gun, you'll be going through like Tiger tanks as well, such as a Tiger 1. You have a lot higher chance of going through a Tiger 1 or even a Tiger P. You might even go through that as well. So definitely a very, very strong capable tank, but just remember its weaknesses of its mobility as well, only going at 20 kilometers per hour, which is very, very slow. So definitely be careful when you're playing this tank, or if you are playing this tank, then only keep this thing face forward where it is the strongest, where its hull and the turret is absolutely amazing. Now just be careful, the wee weakness up in here, as you can see there's a slight kind of angle here where it's vulnerable, and also the kind of turret mantle as well, which could possibly get damaged in this game. I think that counts as a hit point as well, but definitely be careful with the cheeks as well, because if you angle them the wrong way like this, so see if you angle the tank like this, the way my camera's facing, this part here is very vulnerable. Again, I don't know, I just know this based off World of Tanks knowledge. I don't know if that counts as the same hit point, hit mark as well. But just be careful with the two side cheeks, kind of similar to the M6 over here. So definitely a very, very formidable tank, but just be careful with its side weakness in its rear. Okay, moving on to the very last heavy tank that we have here, which is the mighty T30. Now, of course, in World of Tanks, it carries a 155mm gun, which is actually the same in this game as well. So this thing is a much bigger caliber than all of these guys put together. And this thing is formidable. In this tank, it is counted as a heavy tank. In World Tanks, it did used to be a heavy tank until it got moved to a tank destroyer. But this thing does carry a 50 cal machine gun. As you can see right here, it's very similar, very much the same as the T14. As you can see, this guy just seems to be kind of sleeping on the job, where this guy's more active. But as you can see, that this guy is very much more vulnerable than the guy in a T14, because he will get shot off very easily, so just be careful of that. But this gun is one hell of a punch. This thing will go through it, Stug 3Gs, Tiger, even a Tiger 2. This thing will punch through a Tiger 2 like a hot knife through butter. Seriously, or even IS-2s as well. This thing is a very, very scary tank with that 155 caliber gun. It will literally go through anything, and I will give you a wee demonstration of what this gun sounds like. 3, 2, 1. You listen to that. It is very deadly. Even tore a bit of the bridge off. That's how deadly we're talking about here. So definitely do not mess with this tank. And of course its strengths are the turret. The turret is just invincible. If you look at that thing, nothing is going to get through that, even if you go hull down on it. And you can go hull down in this game, by the way. I'm not just talking about World of Tanks knowledge as well, you can. This thing is very hard to penetrate, maybe except from the cupola up here and the slight dent, but overall the strengths are just this gun and the turret, which will save you a lot, and also the hull as well. But don't count, it's actually got less armor than the Mutant, with its only ranging between 38 and 178 millimeters of armor. So just be careful. This thing does have a slope as well, just kind of like the T14 and the Mutant, but this thing is looks like that the Mutant does have got some spaced armor, whereas the T30 doesn't. So just be careful that the vulnerable points on this tank are this wee machine port here, as you can see, which looks like a 30 cal, which I think works in the game, but I think it's just a 50 cal. So just be careful with the vulnerable points, being that this point in your hull is quite weak, and of course with this thing, of course being a heavy tank as well, it is very slow, with only going a maximum speed of 21 kilometers per hour in the game. So just be careful that you don't get again flanked out in the sides where you could possibly get tracks. Now you don't actually have you don't really have side skirts here. You only maybe have these tiny little black side skirts here where protect the top tracks but not the bottom half of it, so you can get tracked very, very easily in this tank. So just be careful of that. And overall this thing is just very, very meaty and one of the scariest tanks in the game when it comes to this mod. So definitely be aware of when facing off this tank, because you will get deleted, and let me tell you that is a true fact. So there we go, that is the heavy tanks covered. Now I was actually going to do the medium tank covered, but we're kind of already like almost half an hour into the video, so I think this is quite a good point to leave it here. If you want me to cover and do the medium tanks as well, with the famous Fury tank and the M51 Super Pershing, the E4 Super Pershing itself, and of course the T49, which of course actually has a 152 derp gun. So if you want me to review those tanks here, then let me know in the comments down below. But other than that, guys, I hope you did enjoy today's video. If you do want me to do more tank reviews with other factions such as Russia, Germany, because those have some other tanks as well, such as the famous what I'm trying to think is a famous Tiger P, which is very famous. But if you want me to do Russia as well, then I can, because those have some big scary tank, or even Japanese as well and Chinese put together. Those kind of two factions collide as one, which is actually a very good faction I want to review. But there we go, guys, that is it for today. I hope you did enjoy this. I'm sorry it took so long to get a video out. I was going to do a call to arms video, but unfortunately one of the mods, I had it all set and ready, but for some reason it crashed. So I've contacted the mod maker, and hopefully we can get that mod sorted out very, very soon. So I am sorry for the delays in video. As soon I know, as I come back for 2 weeks, I'm being a very bad YouTuber. I'm not like daily uploading, but from now on I should hopefully, get everything ready and prepared before I start recording. So there we go, guys, that is it for today. I hope you did enjoy today's video. I like to say, if you are new to the channel, make sure you do subscribe, because you will get a shout out at the end of the video, such as just now. So if you do want to do that, then make sure you do subscribe. And also comment down below if you do want to see more of this, because honestly, seeing these tanks is honestly just a sight of beauty, man. Honestly, just listening to these tanks is honestly it's just an absolute masterpiece with this. So if you guys, I really do enjoy doing tanks, and tanks are probably one of the most favorite things about World War II that I love. So there we go, guys, this is it for today. Alex, thank you so much for watching and all your support, and I will see you in the next video. See you later, and goodbye.